What I'm trying to say is that normally, with every single problem, I consider myself a man who knows all the solutions and knows all the answers. But after this, I'm sitting here thinking, what do we do? And I'll be honest, if I was in charge of America, the people who are laughing and dancing and celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, I believe, should end up feeling the force of the law. But how does that affect free speech? And how is that weaponized against us into the future? I don't know. And then you have to go down a deeper rabbit hole. You're currently in Dubai. Dubai is safe and Dubai is secure, it looks like, or the Middle East. You're in somewhere safe and secure. America is no longer safe and secure for anybody. It's not safe and secure anymore. So how do you restore this? How do you restore unity? How do you restore sanctimonium? How do you fix these things? Because America doesn't just have domestic enemies. It has international enemies. There's a reason everyone's running away from America and running away from Europe and running to Dubai, because it's a place where you can exist without the threat of being killed. But Dubai doesn't have free speech. Does free speech just end in tyranny? I don't know. How does this end? I'm not sure. What I'm saying is that if it was up to me, if I was the president, I would say, okay, we're going to have free speech, but we need to have some basic parameters we all understand and respect. Free speech works if we have the same view of history, the same view of what a successful society is, the same view of what a family is, the same. You need to have some basic parameters. You can't have people who disagree on absolutely every single facet of existence, and then have these people walking around with guns, and then have unchecked media pieces stirring up hate. How will that end in anything other than assassinations?
But then what's the solution? Because in Europe, you're seeing the opposite. You're seeing free speech destroy one's freedom. And we're seeing that abused in the UK. We're seeing
seven
AFD, more than Russia.
Seven AFD politicians died before the election.
In Germany,
so people are dying everywhere for having the wrong point of view now. Because we're the Nazis. We're evil somehow. We've been demonized to the point where we deserve death. And because we're the rational ones, because we're the smart ones, we don't wish death upon our enemies. We wish enlightenment upon our enemies. I don't want liberals to die. I want them to wake up and live happy lives. And
did anybody want to comment on that video?
Yeah, I think what he's speaking to, this is my opinion, I think what has occurred is that we have pacified society so long to where the opinions of people are so strong, it's jarring. Because I'm almost 40 now. I don't remember people's opinions being that, insidious. But I also grew up to where we were taught to speak, honestly, right? So in my immediate home, this was nothing uncommon. But you were told, like, don't say this or don't say that as a whole. And so I think you're starting to see now that people are not being prepared to know how to deal with the indifference of an opinion. And if you hold a public office or if you hold a position of power, well, they're reacting because it's like, well, how could they? And you're seeing them carry it out because it's an uncommon thing. You should have civil discourse. You should be taught how to have conflict resolution. So if you make it to a certain point as an adult and you don't know how to be told something that is an opposing view and it has you lead to respond negatively, physically, combatively, there's something missed in your development. And that's what I'm seeing. And that's why I believe, like with AP, I agree. We need to have a society that has room for both. People should be asking why that person has the opinion, not getting so upset and starting to go register for handguns and assault rifles to now silence what they feel should not be spoken about. It's blasphemous to me. And I'll land.
I was going to say, I think there's a difference between, like how you said, when you were growing up, you had opportunity to practice that, right? So I think what's happening now is that practice that you get doesn't occur. So it's like literally handing a child a handgun without telling them the dangers of what can happen when you use it. So I think growing up in this like generation with all of this social media and the misinformation and disinformation that occurs, and then you have not been taught how to decipher those things, or what the consequences can be when you say something to somebody the wrong way, or even just the environment or the power of understanding decorum, right? I think all of those things are tools that used to be provided so you can have civil discourse. But now, when you just have people saying whatever the heck they want without any parameters, without being in a society that is along the same lines of what's right and what's wrong, like we've even lost a sense of that. Of what's right and what's wrong. So when you have all of these things that are occurring, this is what it leads to, because nobody has been taught how to manage themselves, how to have self-control, how to speak to people appropriately. And I think it's only going to get worse, because now the fight, like when something like this happens, the fight is always going to be going to the extreme of it. But I think some of the basic stuff, like when we say, when we're talking about curbing, the freedom of speech, I don't necessarily think it means to censor everything, but I think it should be brought back to a time where, you exercise wisdom based on the situation. So it's not like what that old saying, like, it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. So I don't think like we've have a developmental vocabulary sense to know how to express and say what you mean, without, like you said, in it leading to a situation where it becomes violent. And I know at this point it's kind of like, once the genie is out of the bottle, how do you put them back in? How do you put the genie back in without it being extreme? So the only way to fix it is to go to the extreme. And I don't know if I want that either.
Me, look. There's repercussions for what you say. Like that's the truth. What it sounded like probably a few moments ago is we need to censor access, not the speech. And that's more or less where the difference lies now versus even 15 years ago. There's more access to some of the heaviest language that's available. So I don't believe in shutting people up. I can't wrap my mind around making a person not speak or policing how they speak. My whole thought on the entire subject is, you say what you say. At the end of the day, whatever happens is what happens. And I'm not going to use I'll try not to use Kirk as an example, but in just about every phase of life, they'll silence you. They'll blacklist you in the NFL. They'll blacklist you in Hollywood. But those are repercussions for the way you speak, the way you act, the way you behave. And I don't like how we've gone to a society to where people are policed in how they say whatever they say. And I just don't know. I honestly don't know how the hell we got here and how it got so extreme. I mean, shooting a guy, that seems pretty extreme to me.
That's been happening
to me. Seems pretty American. This is America. We've probably been experiencing in our generation, but this is America.